Hello, class. You're getting to see my first webcast ever. Hopefully, this works out and it makes a lot of sense. Makes it a little easier for you to understand the chapter on monopolies. A couple things I want to talk about. Monopolies may price discriminate in order to increase profits if they're able to do so. Well, what determines if they're able to do so? Monopolies are price searchers, okay? And price searchers or price makers are one of the definitions of the monopoly that allows they are allowed to price discriminate as opposed to a price taker, which is part of perfect competition where they don't have a choice in setting the prices. Monopolies can't set the price. So let me start by explaining the definition of price discrimination. Okay, it's the practice of a seller charging different prices for the same product, not justified by cost differences. We learned a little bit about that when we talked about price ceilings and rent control, where landlords weren't able to charge the price they wanted to charge for their rent, and so they started price discriminating against people with families with kids or families with pets or maybe biker gangs that they didn't want tearing up their apartments. So they, since they couldn't charge different prices for different people, they went ahead and discriminated and tried to just find maybe a little old lady who pays her rent every month. So that's a form of it, but I want to get a little more specific here. There are several conditions for price discrimination. The seller must be a price maker, like I said earlier. Okay. The seller must also be able to segment the market by distinguishing between consumers willing to pay different prices. That sounds kind of complicated. How can they do that? Well, sometimes they segment the market, like you might have heard in the podcast by Professor Wright, in different forms. Maybe the bookstore where they give you a discount for being a student. You show your ID, and if you don't have an ID, you pay a different price, a little bit higher price. Maybe you get a 20% discount if you're a student. It can be the same in a movie theater. Maybe senior citizens over 55 or 60 years old, they get a different price, a little lower price. So they actually get price discrimination in their favor. Next item I want to talk about is customers cannot engage in arbitrage. Arbitrage is a new word you haven't heard, so I'll define that as the practice of earning a profit by buying low and reselling high. Example Dr. or Professor Wright talked about earlier was airlines. Airlines. If you were going to Hawaii in 6 months, you can buy a ticket today for maybe $400. If you're going to Hawaii tomorrow, maybe for a business meeting, your ticket price would probably be $2,000, $3,000 for a price tomorrow, for a ticket for tomorrow. What airlines found out is business travelers normally buy on a much shorter time basis as opposed to vacation travelers, and therefore they price discriminate. And in order to keep you from using arbitrage and you buying 20 tickets at $400 and then reselling them to businesses at $2,000 a couple months from now, they require a photo ID to prove that the person they sold the ticket to is the only one using that ticket. So you can't buy more than one ticket for yourself for that exact same flight. Anyhow, that's example of arbitrage. Anyhow, price discrimination is not necessarily bad. It's just different, and it does make sense. And monopolies use it sometimes to extract the best price they can to increase their profits. Thank you.